Welcome to Vale la Pena. In English, that's worth your while. I'm your host, Cynthia Ribas. This is a show where we get to do some grassroots philanthropy together. In all episodes, we'll feature nonprofit organizations engaged in inspiring projects for people, animals, and the environment. Some guests will be representatives of those organizations, and they'll share with us more about initiatives they're working on and ways we can participate. Check the show notes for opportunities to impact these humanitarian causes together. You can find this show through my website at www.ribaslegal.com and on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Now, please join me for Vale la Pena. Please, welcome, Rich.
Thank you. You forgot the naked guy. That's how most people know me.
Oh, right. Naked guy.
No worries. I'm not naked. So here we go. But
here we go.
Great to see you, Cynthia. I am thrilled to participate. Love that we get to spend some more time talking, and am so happy that the world gets to see more of you. They don't even know what a peach you are for the world, but we're going to help them understand how you come to do things like this and more than we could ever describe here. But since I know you, I'm going to talk about it at points.
You are free to share as you wish, but yes, this is a departure from me. This is really an opportunity to step away from the law practice, to get around that law desk, which has been, justice is my life. That is my calling. It's the reason I'm here. And I have a very expanded notion of justice. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like a departure to me at all of who you are. In fact, the whole idea that you'd like to bring kind of philanthropy into a more grassroots format just makes sense to me, knowing who you are. I know you as someone who is inherently caring about others and drawn enthusiastically to just help, to make a difference. And more than anyone else I know, that's who you are. So if you find ways to do it outside of the corrupt legal community, good for you, because get me started on the legal side of this and we'll really get going. But I know today we're going to be talking about the Equal Justice Initiative, and that's dear to both of our hearts. It's I know Bryan Stevenson is your hero, and I reached out to him long ago, a good while ago, once I got out of prison myself, and offered whatever I might be able to do with whatever name recognition I might have if he were ever interested in having me assist in anything, in any way. Just the work he's doing and the Innocence Project and so many others. But his particularly just has always been inspiring is just such an understatement. I don't even know where to go with it. He's just amazing, as you know.
Right. So I'm just trying to figure out, I'm going to say a word or two. Let's say a word or two about you and me, and then we'll go into Bryan Stevenson and his world.
Okay. So do you want me to just go?
Go for it.
Yeah. So I suppose I should tell folks who are watching how you and I met and why I adore you beyond description. So we basically, Cynthia and I met in a prison waiting room.
We met in prison, yes.
Cynthia was representing someone who became my friend in prison. I was there quite a while. People probably don't know, but in total, almost 5 years. An insane amount of time. And that's part of what we'll, I think, talk about when we talk about equitable justice here. Inequitable justice, to be clearer. But Cynthia was assisting someone who she cared about in a way that was impactful to me. And I talked with him, and eventually in the visiting room met you, and we became friends and more, I would say, it's impossible to describe what it really feels like to feel understood and assisted from the outside, never mind assisted by someone with your level of competence, but to just have that sense that you cared, and all that you listened to and helped with throughout those years was um, just beyond what I could actually really fully communicate. But I hope people are getting the sense. And then to learn who you are, and then to spend time with you afterwards, and to just watch you in the world. I think I've said to you in text just out of the blue, I mean, just because I just am so happy you're in the world, period. I mean, it just makes me happy you exist. It does.
I wasn't expecting all this. All my energies have been on you and Bryan. It's like, okay, right, I'm in this picture too.
Yeah, no,
All
in
right.
a big way.
Well, so I got to give something back here. Rich, I am also so grateful for you because of, in life, sometimes you have these dark chapters and you go all over the place in life. And with you, time and time again, I have these moments that are so magical that I have to just like look and go, how did that happen? What am I doing here? And I'll just give you a couple of those. And I'm grateful to you for those. But here's what they are. One, as you mentioned, I'm not the kind of lawyer anyone ever sees. If you aren't somehow on my credenza, you will not see me. So that's the only reason why I say this is a bit of a departure, because you can see me. Especially with the internet now, so many of my clients never meet me. We do the work we need to do, and I'm an email. I'm some kind of an avatar. But with you, there was an incident where you were wrongly imprisoned. Again, this was long after you had served your incredibly long sentence. And though I'm not a lawyer who's ever in front of the camera, you needed me to be in front of the camera because this was a case where I literally couldn't have my client be in front of the camera. And so I actually wound up, if someone goes digging, you will find I have 2 seconds of fame that are all about me on national television talking about the injustice of your case. So that was one where I was like, what? Like 3 a.m, the car comes and somebody's doing my makeup, and I wind up looking so strange. My own mother is like, oh, honey, did you not get any sleep that night? Because I just looked so terrible. But, it's like, how in the world do these people do this talking head thing? Whatever. But it was super exciting. That's one. Another one was, you and I are at the Today Show, and we're in the green room. And I remember I was at the craft table, and I look around. You're standing next to me. I'm, of course, dork in my suit, right? And I look around, and there are just the coolest people I have ever seen. And of course, we're in New York, so people are just cool in New York, right? But these are like a whole other level of cool in there. And I look, and I actually catch Sting looking right at me, and I almost faint. I just was like, oh my God, this is the time he had just released Sacred Love and whatever. He had so impacted my well-being through a whole chapter of life. I literally just spun on my heels back to that donut or whatever was on the craft table because it was like impossible to be with. But
Well, you're cooler than all of them.
Thanks to you. That's thanks to you. That was such a moment. Yeah. And I have other ones. I mean, I remember you did Celebrity Apprentice. Yeah. I don't know what I was doing in New York then. Must have been a work thing, but you invite me to visit you. I visit you. And where are you? Are you in the Trump? Are we in the Trump Hotel?
Yep. Yeah. Trump Tower in Columbus Circle, I think.
Yeah. So that's another one where it's like, what am I doing here? But of course you were there.
Yeah, and what am I doing there?
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to tell us a little bit about that. Yeah. And I'll give you yet another one. you invited me to Survivor's 10-year party,
Mm.
which was super swank and super fun. And I even have a photo with Rudy,
Oh,
which is so
we love
precious.
Rudy.
And
Yeah,
I said,
Rudy's
thank
gone.
you for all that magic and fun. And then, of course, I fell in love with your husband. I love him. He's
Yeah.
wonderful. I know you guys weren't together, but shout out to him. And
I miss
all our many
Miami.
conversations. I've been to your place in Newport, and
And we share a love of dogs.
and we have dogs.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting how much we overlap. I also so admire, one of the things I was originally really stressing out about having you as a guest is there's just so much to say about you. And then in doing my own prep, I spent some time on your YouTube channel. And what's so beautiful is you've done a lot of that for me. Like, it helped calm me down because I was like, we can point people to that. And you're so generous with your life. You have so much to say. You're, so well educated and so articulate and so thoughtful. You really seem to capture what it is you want to say before you say it.
Thank you. Wow.
You
Wow.
don't just blurt it out. You're thinking.
It doesn't feel like that in my head. But thank you. I really, really appreciate it. I've gotten a lot of feedback from my YouTube videos, and that was something another friend started for me. I could never have done it. The technological stuff behind that, and pushed me to do, because he was so tired of the media, of the noise that was out there without my own voice contributing to it for balance. And I think that's a big part of what happens with anyone's case, with anyone's life, with anyone's background. And we lose sight of there being a real human being behind whatever it is that happens to be on the front page of the media at that time. Don't you think?
Right. I mean, you've got videos on your prison time. You've got videos on your reflections on a birthday. I love that one when you were in the middle of the pandemic, I think, and you were turning 59, and you had just great wisdom to impart. You've got discussions on your reflections on Trump. And then, of course, you have a whole other in-depth for anybody who is a serious, proper Richard Hatch fan and Survivor fan. You have a world of discourse in terms of that show and what's going on there, and insights about humanity. And
well, people are heavily invested in the show, and they have very, very sincere questions about what's real, what it says when she does this or he does that, and I personally feel very clear about what that show could do and has done from the beginning for folks who are kind of watching and wonder how they would involve themselves. I think it causes us to be incredibly introspective in a way that other shows don't, and I think that's a good thing. And I think it's why Survivor has lasted as long as it has. But I don't think the folks behind the scenes feel the same way. And I feel as if one, particularly, as I make clear on my podcast, Jeff Probst, is steering the show in the wrong direction and inserting himself too much, interfering with the show's magic, if you will, which really was the heart of it for me, and I think for most fans, getting at who we are in real ways. Who are we? How do we interact? What do we think? What do we say? How do we respond? What do we fear? How are we going to move within the context of the rules of this game? And instead, now I feel as if the production kind of restrains and massages the environment, stealing from us, the viewers, an opportunity to enjoy what the purity, the realness that the show had, that drew us all to it so strongly. But I'll talk about it and talk about it and talk about it because I still have never missed an episode. And I still think it's a really valuable look into who we are.
Well, and you were almost on it, right? On season 41, or right?
Oh, so many overlaps in what we're talking about when you ask that question. So I was invited when I was on probation. So I'd done my prison time. I was on probation. And you, an attorney, knows probation, the whole point is to ensure that you are working and that you're getting back into society. And that's their job, really. Probation officers, they're supposed to facilitate your employment, make sure that you are working, etc. Twice, 2 years in a row, I was invited back onto Survivor. And because of how much disdain, I think, prosecutors, the court, and everyone had for me, who talked about them and what they did wrong and how wrongfully I was convicted, all the way to the Supreme Court and in all the media, they blocked my participation in Survivor. So I owed all kinds of taxes by the time they were assessed, and they prevented me from getting employment to pay them back. It's the hypocritical's beyond not enough, really, not enough to clarify what it was. But God, it's such an awful feeling. Yes, I was invited back those 2 times, but of course I was invited for the all winners season, the 40th season, when they had all winners on, and I was told by the staff who contacted me that this was the first season they were the casting was being left up to production, and that the suits and the executive producer and Jeff Probst, et cetera, they were not going to be involved. And that for the first time, I was the only contestant that every single producer, 201, wanted back on. And so they asked me to drop my PhD program. I was in the last semester of my PhD program, and I withdrew after having paid for it and moved partway through it because we would have to leave for the show. And 2 days before our flight, they dropped me and Tina, who was the second winner of Survivor, and withdrew their request for us to participate with no explanation, and didn't cover any of the losses or anything else in the typical way that CBS has done so many things, and just does not care one iota about the participants or about just being ethical in the world, despite their facade in the way that they try to promote, what I would call this image in the show, that they're there to support women, that they're there to do the right thing. Jeff says, "Oh, we can't say we guys anymore," and then talks through the episode about it. We guys is wrong. We shouldn't. And then the next episode is like, "Come on, guys, let's go." It's just, they don't give a hoot. It's just all about what it appears, or what they think it appears, how they think they appear on the show. Have I babbled endlessly? I feel like I'm just okay. We're on topic. Still good.
It's all good. I mean, for the record, and it is true, when I met you, I think at that time I was the one person on the globe who had not watched the show. But of course, after meeting you, I had to get myself current, and you are the show for me. So anybody who's got some idea that you're not the show, you are the show. And anyone who is looking for a sophisticated discussion about what's really happening in that show, you are the authority. And they know that. CBS knows if they ever have rabid Survivor fans that they need to satiate somehow, they have to direct them to you.
Well, they can find me on the YouTube channel and or Twitter or wherever. I talk about it with anybody, anywhere. I'm focused, and have been for quite some time now, on this concept of reality matters. Reality being what's true, and that will eventually be a podcast that I hope to get off the ground, Reality Matters with Richard Hatch, but it is not out there and it has not launched yet, so don't go looking for it. But the concept applies to all we'll talk about today, I think, and really to all we do in life. And the idea that, particularly in the current zeitgeist, this whole idea of what's true seems to have lost value, and it bothers the living heck out of me. It drives me crazy because I don't think we as a society or as humans, as a race, can do well unless we maintain some real value for what's true, for what's real, for what's valid, instead of the nonsense, which is the whirlwind circling what's true. And I can give one quick example, I think is this idea of your truth. People are, Oprah, the whole common vocabulary is filled with this concept of she's living her truth. That's his truth. He's living his truth. And well, my truth is such and such. There is no such thing as your truth or my truth or his truth or her truth. We're not entitled to our own truths. We don't own what's true. There exists what's true, whether we're aware of it, whether we know it, whether it's unknown, whether it's unknowable, and our perspective of it, our opinion, our perspective, etc. And language matters. So the more that we talk about this, well, that's her truth. She's living her truth. The more we undermine and usurp the real thing, what really is true, and the less energy we put into both learning what's true and maintaining an open mind such that other information might come in to help us understand what's true. Because once you've decided you already understand what's true, little gets in. Little gets in after that. I love Trump. Boom. Nothing else can come in. You can't talk about what an ass he is. People ask, I know the man. And I have credibility because I think folks watched me, 54 million viewers on national television, and can understand how quickly I was able to perceive who each of the participants were, such that I could get rid of each of them in order to win. Not because that's what I do in real life, but those were the rules of the game: outwit, outlast, outplay. But my background, my interest, my fascination is with who we are. So I'm adept, I think, at understanding us, we humans, and figuring out what the core is. Well, who real people? What's real about those with whom I interact? And I could go on, but I don't want to bore the audience about Trump.
Well, you actually met him too, right? Of course, in the Celebrity Apprentice, or no?
Not met him. No. I knew him intimately for years prior to that. I worked with him. I worked in his building. I hosted the CBS Early Show, CBS Early Mornings, or CBS Early Show, I think it was called. Sat in for Bryant Gumbel. We talked in the morning, had breakfast out, at sometimes. I've been to events with he and his wife, many events, the Harlem Globetrotters. I sat on the dais at the Friars Club when he was roasted at his invitation. I was naked with him in Trump Tower, at the top of Trump Tower, in his penthouse office. I was hosting Live with Regis, and we did a skit and so I rode the elevator naked up to his office, walked to his secretary, and when she ushered me into his office, where he stood in the window, and I put my arms around him, butt naked, and he pointed out what he owned, which was quite a bit at the time. And no, we've actually spent time talking, and I was on Celebrity Apprentice as well, so I got to know Ivanka and Don, who were both part of that. show as well. And so, and Eric came occasionally, but yeah, I had the privilege of personal experience upon which to communicate my thoughts about who the man is and how utterly, utterly unsuited he is for the role he took on.
Did you ever get to talk to him after that?
No, no, no. It's another one of those times, many have occurred in my life, when, as vocal as I am, there comes a disconnect. What I find is that it isn't that I am uninterested in someone else's opinion, but I think people perceive that and find me arrogant because I have an opinion. I have an opinion about most things. I share that opinion. I'm thrilled to. I like to talk about my perspective on issues. I even more so want to hear yours, particularly if it differs or why you support something that I believe in too. But I maybe I'm ineffective at communicating that, and I didn't sense any interest once Trump began his run for president in engaging thereafter, because I was very vocal in the public eye, I think was part of it. And there were times prior to it when he was contemplating his run where he made comments to me about how and why he believed our relationship was going to change anyway, because of the way in which he had to alter his bent, his how he's perceived on air. So, you know, this entire idea of being religious or knowing what a Bible is just nothing to do with Trump or his life, and he had to go that way. And even on Celebrity Apprentice, which was right at the outset, when he was in the beginning talks of whether or not this was something he might do sometime, he said to me something about how he had to be careful about my lifestyle, and on air made comments to the effect of, homophobic stuff. I don't know what it was. It was stupid. And I smiled and responded however I did and let him know how absurd I thought that was. And the truth is, he doesn't give a crap one way or another. He just doesn't. It's not that I'm even going to claim that he's homophobic. He's just not a man with a core. He just doesn't care. There's no one I know who's more kind of expedient, just whatever it takes in the moment to get whatever it is he wants in the moment, he will do, bar none. Anyway, that's my that's my condensed Trump rant. There's more on my YouTube.
Right. No, and you address so many different issues, including how siloed we are and how we don't talk to each other. And I do stand for and envision that world where Trump could talk to you again.
Yeah.
You know,
How do we get
you
there?
could actually, that would actually be enlightening to people to see that and have that be able to be conducted in a way that was respectful. And we need to get there.
How do we get there? And let's bridge the gap here. Let's get into the conversation kind of main point. I'll share a story about prison where I met a man, I'll call him Charlie. And Charlie was charged as a teen with having a joint. He had one or two joints, I think it was, and he was living in DC, in his pocket. And so that went on his record for some reason. He had that. He later was charged with, years later, was charged with, as an adult, transporting 2 pounds of marijuana from DC to Oregon in his car, and was convicted and sentenced to what? How much time?
It's a ridiculous amount of time.
2 pounds, one joint was his only prior conviction as a 16-year-old. Now, as an adult, it was 2 pounds. What?
3 years.
Yeah, 25.
Oh.
Sentenced to 25 years in prison. Why? Because he's black. Period. Bar none. There is not a white person anywhere with that record who would have been sentenced to 25 years in prison. I bring this up because of what you said. Oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could talk about, or Trump and I could talk about. There's a block. I don't know what it is, Cynthia, but there's a wall, this impenetrable wall, when someone brings up something with which you think you have a better understanding than they do, or with which they think they're already informed. And this idea of racism, for example, is a perfect kind of example of why I think we're still not able to make it work. Because I bring up how racist our society remains today. We can go on and will today, I think, talk more about the history of racism, but it is indescribably much more difficult for people of color today than most people are willing to admit. And when I bring it up, I get all kinds of things on social media related to the concept of being not a patriot. Why don't you move somewhere else? Why are you always putting down America? How dare you claim that we're this, that, and the racist? And it's nauseating, literally, physically nauseating to me, because I feel as if I am relatively articulate, relatively calm in the face of someone else's perception and their reasoning. But I've done all in my power to try to take the energy down, take slow steps, and move with facts towards some sense of reality. Reality matters. What's true about whether or not Black people, let's just say, face challenges within our country, still significant ones, because of the color of their skin. And I get more pushback on that than almost anything. I go deeper than that in my own mind, in my own head, because I don't think it's just racism. I think it's something deeper about who we are and how we react to different, to those we perceive as other. Doesn't matter if it's just the color of your skin. When I lived my entire life prior to Survivor, I was 38 years old when I went on Survivor, I was relatively open. I didn't care what people thought of me. I'm a fat, naked, gay, white atheist. There are lots of things that people didn't know about me, but some came to know them and it didn't affect me. But when that became knowledge worldwide, but 54 million viewers America-wide, I had no sense of how stirring it would be, how angry making, how, in addition to the show in which they didn't understand the concept, they were perceiving me as a villain, they felt entitled to villainize me and feel that way because I was different, which is what the casting professionals wanted. Of course, they're looking for those of us who are somewhat different and maybe a little entertaining to get people to tune in. But the consequences of that taught me quite a bit. I always maintained this demeanor in which I claimed I don't really care what people think about me. I'm more interested in being open, honest, and getting at who we are to one another in real ways. But I learned that not caring what people think about me has consequences as well. And it was really a powerful lesson.
Thank you for tuning in to Vale la Pena. Please join us in making an impact together for people, animals, and the environment. Details in the show notes. You can find this show through my website at www.ribaslegal.com and on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. I'm your host, Cynthia Ribas, and I welcome and thank you for your feedback, comments, questions, and sharing this show with others.